Another day, another video. But this particular comparison is something that I've been itching to make for a long damn time. Due to circumstances I wasn't able to, but the time has come. I've already pit all the 12 Assassin's Creed games against each other in a grand tournament, and unfortunately these two never got to face each other. Why is it so important, you might ask? Well, because it's the first versus the last game to come out in the franchise. So this is not just another one-on-one. Not only will it tell us how the franchise has evolved, it'll also shed light on the problems and the paths that they've left behind that they shouldn't have. By the way, if you haven't played either of these games, I highly recommend you do. They are both unique. In fact, these two are so different from each other. Despite being a part of the same universe, they honestly feel like they're from two completely different franchises. Now let me explain how the comparison will go. I'll pit them mano a mano to compare them in 16 criterias instead of 10 as I did in the tournament. The visuals, map, the story, character designs, combat, stealth, parkour, music, the protagonist, the antagonist, side characters, missions, side missions, the ending, the setting, and last but not the least, the impact or legacy. These 16 pointers cover every single aspect of a game in my opinion, because there isn't a lot left. Also, I won't be including the DLCs as Assassin's Creed 1 didn't get one, and these DLCs are bigger than many full-fledged games. The points will be displayed on the top of the screen so that we know exactly what the situation is. And for any who think that this comparison is unfair as the first Assassin's Creed game is just too old to match up to the modern day juggernaut, I think again, as the game came pretty far in the tournament. So don't count this old dog out just yet. And you might not agree with all that I say. If you do, I'd honestly be shocked. But hey, it's just an opinion. So make sure you let me know yours so we can have a debate. I can't wait for this. Let's just begin the match. First, the visuals. This might be an area where Valhalla has an unfair advantage over Assassin's Creed 1. Of course it would. There is after all a 13-year difference between the two, so the extensive technological advancements have allowed Valhalla to be dazzling. The 9th century Norway and England are stunning, plus it has mystical locations like Asgard, Svartalfheim and Jotunheim, which I don't feel belong in the Assassin's Creed world, but they are mind-blowing nevertheless. The architecture, the vegetation, the water bodies, and the overall look of the game is brilliant. The color palette is broad and spectacular, and I especially like the snowy winters. Not as much as Assassin's Creed 3 though, but Assassin's Creed 1, even though it's a bit damp and dull with a weird filter-like thing applied, it is still pretty solid. It's not as colorful or vibrant, but I've come to realize over time that it goes perfectly with the story and the setting at hand. And not just that, it elevates it all together. The architecture is what I hated until very recently, but when I found out that it's actually more accurate than what I gave it credit for, it changed my opinion on the visuals of this game. I still gotta give it to Valhalla though, it's simply better. Round 2 for the map. The numbers game is in Valhalla's favor here, as Assassin's Creed 1 has a map that might just be 0.6 square kilometers, maybe. But on the other hand, Valhalla has a map that's 140 plus square kilometers. So that's over 200 times the size, but is bigger, also better in this case. It actually is, since there are so many places that might not have much to do, but you'd want to visit them just for the view if nothing else, like the Excalibur Stonehenge, Ravensthorpe, or the aforementioned Asgard. These places are so stunning and massive, you'd want to see them at least once. It's also laid out pretty neatly, but with that much area at hand, I would be shocked if it wasn't. Whereas it's all business when it comes to Assassin's Creed 1. There are 3 cities, Jerusalem, Acre and Damascus. And then there's the Assassin's HQ in Masyaf. It's also pretty compact with only necessary landmarks and a tightly knit design. And back then, it was enough to stun you. But today's games are just light years ahead. Another point goes to Valhalla. And now it's time for the story round. Disclaimer, there'll be no spoilers here. Just a synopsis and a brief analysis. To be honest, Valhalla's story is of a Viking reincarnation of a demigod with tiny bits of Assassin's Creed lore sprinkled all over it. Depending on the gender you choose, after his or her parents are killed by Kjotve the Cruel, an evil warlord, the Viking child is adopted by Styrbjorn of the Raven clan. The child grows up to be a fierce warrior, and along with their adopted brother, Sigurd, Ivar sets out to conquer England once he or she realizes that their adopted father's ambitions don't converge with his own. The game really is torn between the Viking and the Assassin's Creed worlds, and unfortunately it wasn't able to do justice to either. It's more of a bittersweet experience. They have provided us with some much needed answers, like what killed the Isus for example. Some people might find said answers satisfying, but I really didn't. There's just too much godly stuff in the story to make it a part of Assassin's Creed, whereas Assassin's Creed 1 has one of the better told stories. Altair, a 12th century assassin who's arrogant and headstrong, fails to assassinate one of the Templars, also losing one of his fellow soldiers. And on his path to redemption, he finds out that neither the Templars nor the assassins are what they seem. The story is not only mature and thought-provoking, but also has its heart in the right place. They knew exactly what they wanted to convey when they wrote it. But the same cannot be said about Valhalla. This round goes to Assassin's Creed 1. Round 4, character designs. I wanted to give this aspect separate focus from the visuals, as sometimes the visuals might be average but the character designs are perfect, and vice versa. It has happened before. For example, in Prince of Persia: Sands of Time, I loved the visuals, but the designs of the prince and Farah were pretty awful. Now Valhalla's designs are awesome, but there is one thing I absolutely hated. They have added a ton of armors that look absurd and have no business in the Assassin's Creed realm, like the godforsaken Iron Man armor, which is quite frankly disgusting. If they don't realize how much they're damaging their own brand by these shenanigans, I don't know what to say. I mean, it's not Fortnite for God's sake. The basic designs are brilliant, with the male Ivars coming close to the best in the series. And pretty much all characters from Odin, Sigurd, Tyr, Loki, and Fenrir, even Layla Hassan, looked much better than the previous installments. But my personal favorite was Basim, and Assassin's Creed 1, despite being over a decade old, has some mind-blowing character designs. This was the game that kicked off the whole hooded assassin gimmick. If anything, the fact that it's so old and still looks this good is extraordinary. There is zero bullshit. The simplicity is outstanding, nothing fancy or needlessly extravagant, because after all, the assassins believed in secrecy, so making an assassin stand out isn't really the best thing to do. This is gonna be controversial, but I'm giving the point to Assassin's Creed 1, as I feel it's way more authentic and true to the source material than Valhalla, which is plagued by an MMO feel. The fifth round is for the combat. One of the few positive things about the RPG era in Assassin's Creed is the combat. From the basic attack, parry, deflect, and counter system, the series graduated to a multi-layered and complex combat system that is way more of a challenge and a more rewarding experience at the same time. Valhalla is no different, as it gives the players the option to choose from thousands of weapons, which can not only be customized but also be imbued with special abilities for added fun. I didn't like that they removed shields from Odyssey, but here they are back. And not just that, you can opt whether you want to equip one or just go with two different weapons as you can wield two at a time. Although the RPG system is pretty stupid, as you can hit a guy who's levels above you right in the face with an axe, and it does no damage. But when I look at what the system added, I have no complaints. Assassin's Creed 1 has the basic combat that I spoke of before. It was good, but today it just gets boring as it's slow, you can't have kill streaks, each opponent has to wait their turn to attack and then you deflect, and the whole system is just primitive. This point definitely goes to Valhalla. Next up, the sixth round for stealth. This might not even be a part of many games, but when we talk Assassin's Creed, it's one of the pillars, especially since assassins are known for striking people down like shadows. I'm really confused as to which one gets the point here. Valhalla has some great stealth elements like a bow, the not so hidden blade, which is stupid, throwing knives, and the also important crouch option. I honestly don't know why it took them so many years to add a crouch button. Why is it important? Well, it isn't really much of stealth if you're straight up walking behind dudes and assassinating them, which is exactly the case in Assassin's Creed 1. It also has the hidden blade and throwing knives, but the stealth itself is meh. I guess I have to go with Valhalla simply because it has more options and better stealth elements like hiding in bushes and the corner crouch. Another round taken by Valhalla. Next, round 7, Parkour. The Parkour, which is another one of the pillars of the franchise, saw decent improvements from Odyssey to Valhalla. It wasn't just hold one key to move around anymore, and was way more interactive than Odyssey. And Assassin's Creed 1's Parkour is decent at best. Nothing spectacular, just the basic climb, ledge grab, leap of faith, and that's just the fact. Because despite all things, the parkour is bloody slow, and that's about the only complaint I have against it. This round is easily taken by Valhalla. Now it's time for round 8, the music. To be honest, neither Assassin's Creed 1 nor Valhalla had the best OST. The franchise is known for some breathtaking albums. Our astronomical expectations would be too much to conquer for either game. But as far as the question as to which game had better music goes, it's surely Valhalla. Assassin's Creed 1 had some good tracks like the chase theme, which will always be stuck in my memory. But Sarah Schachner, Jesper Kyd, and Einar Selvik have made a terrific album that automatically gives Valhalla an edge. There are some solid tracks, such as the Tree of Life and Odin's Plunder, that really bring out the Viking in a man. Had to give the point to Valhalla here. Now for a big one, round 9 for the Protagonist. I've always called this as the most important round, not because it entails more points, but the assassin in Assassin's Creed is the heart and soul of the game. If a game has a weak, poorly written hero, the whole experience becomes jarring. Eivor is not that bad. He has shown some charisma from time to time, has a marginally interesting story, the design is great, voice acting is pretty good too, but as a whole, I just wasn't able to connect with the man. It's like, in order to make him a brooding brute, the creators built a wall around him, which never let him break free to reach his full potential. He was good in bits and pieces, but wasn't allowed to reach greatness. But on the other hand, Altair, despite him being brooding and pretty straightforward, became one of the all-time greats, all thanks to the immaculate writing and character development he got. We witnessed his turn from a charismatic, arrogant boy to a wise and kind man. So sorry Eivor fans, but the point on any day will go to Altair. That's not an opinion, that's a fact. Now for round 10, the Antagonist. This is a question that's confusing, because it's still not completely clear as to who is the actual main antagonist in Valhalla. Was it Basim or Alfred? Neither one fits the bill of the prime bad guy, and even though Basim turned out to be the best character in the game, it's hard to even call him a villain at this point, as he's the protagonist in the next game, Assassin's Creed Mirage. And Alfred the Great was just, well, he was just there. Meanwhile, Al-Mualim is one amazing antagonist. Not only was he a real person, but the way his cunning and wisdom is portrayed in the game, it just makes him a force to be reckoned with. Oftentimes confusing motives make for unlikable characters, like Francois Thomas Jichman. I still can't wrap my head around as to what his endgame was. Al-Mualim's goal was crystal clear: world domination via the Apple of Eden. Such straightforward and powerful characters rarely come by. Assassin's Creed 1 takes another point. Now for round 11, the side characters. Valhalla has a plethora of great side characters like the aforementioned Basim, Tyr, Sigurd, Freya, and then some, who not only play vital roles in the story, but also make a difference with their existence. The gold standard for terrific side characters will always be Assassin's Creed 2 for me. The sheer number of important people, the kind that leave a mark that appeared, was shocking. Valhalla isn't on the same level, but it does way better than Assassin's Creed 1, which has about 3 characters I can recall with great strain on my puny little brain, like Maria, Abbas, and okay, I can recall only 2. This isn't how it should be. The point definitely goes to Valhalla. And now for the 12th round, the missions. Valhalla's mission structure gives the players a lot of freedom to choose what they want to do, how they want to approach it, and when they want to go through it, because the world is so massive and there's countless things to do. The main missions thankfully don't feel like a chore. One more thing that the RPG era entailed was great boss battles. And my favorite in this game is Odin vs Fenrir. What a bloody difficult task that was. And Eivor's story itself has a ton of pillaging and assassinations involved. Well, it's more like straight up murder, so yeah. Needless to say, the missions are pretty well made, but Assassin's Creed 1 has a monotone approach to missions. It is more realistic, I agree, but it's not really that fun. Before every major assassination, there's a ton of eavesdropping and pickpocketing, which by today's ridiculous standards just doesn't get the job done. This is unfortunately all I can say without giving away spoilers. So needless to say, the point goes to Valhalla. Next up, round 13 for the side missions. If we take the constitution of all the activity in Valhalla, it must be 80 to 20, and the 80% represents the side activities, which are multi-dimensional and full of variety. Although the sheer number is intimidating, and because of this it might also feel repetitive, but the amount of side campaigns they have in the game, it's an accomplishment in itself. You can go 100 plus hours and still not crack 75% of the entire game. It is that big. Thousands of locations, hundreds of targets, a ton of different weapons and armors to unlock, mysteries to discover, characters to meet, people to save. You can honestly not play the main missions and still entertain yourself for days. Talk about extreme. And Assassin's Creed 1 is extreme too, but in the opposite sense, as there is literally nothing to do outside of the main storyline. You can collect a few trinkets, but other than that, nothing. Not a zilch. I hate it when games feel dead after the main story is over with, and Assassin's Creed 1 is a prime example. Valhalla absolutely dominates in this round. And now round number 14 for the better ending. The ending of Eivor's story is not really an end, but a bridge rather that leads us to Assassin's Creed Mirage and God knows where else. I love a cliffhanger as much as the next guy, but if I play a game that took nearly 100 hours to complete, I expect the story to have at least a marginally satisfying ending. If I'm left with more questions at the end than I had at the beginning, it's kind of a bummer, and that's exactly what happened here. Important details like how did Eivor die, How did Loki take control of Basim? How many more people's consciousness is stored in Yggdrasil? All these vital questions are left, I wouldn't say up in the air, but for the next installments rather, not cool. But Assassin's Creed 1 had a terrific ending, with the story coming full circle. The protagonist and the antagonist going head to head in a boss fight, some eye-opening dialogues and total satisfaction. Unfortunately, if I say anything more, it'll be a spoiler, but this round definitely goes to Assassin's Creed 1. Just 2 more rounds to go, and now for round number 15, the setting. The Viking culture we see in Valhalla is solid, and they've chosen an excellent time period to make an Assassin's Creed game in. Although unfortunately, it misses the mark entirely. As I said before, the game has an identity crisis. It tries to be too many things at the same time. The only game in the franchise that took on that task and succeeded was Assassin's Creed Origins. The setting there was not just a backdrop, but a part of the foundation instead, and Egypt had intrigue and mystique for days. But that was totally missing from Valhalla. Okay, maybe not totally, but pretty much, because pyramids and the barren wastelands of Egypt feel like they hold the secrets of the gods themselves, whereas Vikings, they just feel like mindless, debaucherous brutes. But Assassin's Creed 1 had what could be one of the best, if not the best settings in this series. The story takes place at a time when the Assassins and the Templars existed for real. Maybe not in the way they portrayed in the game, but it still screams Assassin's Creed. A real setting and real characters will always carry more intrigue and appeal for me than a myriad of fictional characters ever could. The point goes, maybe controversially, to Assassin's Creed 1. Before we go into the final round, let's see who's taken which round and where they stand. Valhalla has taken the visuals, map, combat, stealth, parkour, music, side characters, missions, and the side missions rounds. So it stands at 9, which automatically gives it the win. But Assassin's Creed 1 has given the Viking a tough challenge and has taken the story, character design, protagonist, antagonist, ending, and the setting rounds. So it might be having just 6 points, but it was still pretty close in many areas. And now for the last and final round, the legacy. Valhalla does have a justified reason that it was a recent release, but there are games in this series itself, like Assassin's Creed 2, Brotherhood, Black Flag, and even Unity for that matter, that have left a lasting impact right from the get-go and carved out their own legacy in the annals of Assassin's Creed history. But Valhalla honestly did no such thing for me. It was a great experience, but in the end, there's nothing to go back for. But Assassin's Creed 1, despite its age and technical shortcomings, still has an intrigue factor that draws players back and makes them want to play it one more time. Plus, Altair is the father of the Assassins in many ways. He gave the Assassins direction and carved out the path for generations to come. The legacy or impact round goes to Assassin's Creed 1 for sure. So the final score is 9-7, closer than what many people expected for sure. And let me say it, if Assassin's Creed 1 is ever remade, it could very well become the most loved and technically sound game in the history of Assassin's Creed. But the fact here is that Valhalla is a much better or rather advanced game overall, which will always entail added value. So it was a fair win on Valhalla's part. So that was the match, guys. Tell me in the comment section below if you agree with me or you disagree. Also tell me which game you had winning in this bout. So that's it for today, guys. Stay safe, stay strong, and stay tuned. It's your boy VZX signing out.